This is a Founding Media podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Founders of Fashion. I'm your host, Jennifer Millspaugh. Today, we are sharing an interview with Joshua Bingaman of HELM Boots. Hosting the show this week is Ross Bennett, who is joined by Dan Dillard and Ryan Francis. They get to know more about Joshua and how he started his journey into the world of footwear. Let's jump in and hear what they had to say.
Good morning, everybody. Ross Bennett here with Dan Dillard, Joshua Bingaman from HELM Boots, and Ryan Francis. And, it's great to see you this morning. I'm happy you could make some time for this.
Thank you.
You've been around in this city for almost a decade, putting footwear all over the world. And it's kind of a cool thing to get to sit here and talk to you this morning with these guys and just
Thank you.
Chat about your mind and how you came in as a creative from what you did prior to HELM Boots that I want to talk about, and then also getting into HELM. So
very cool.
You want to talk about how you got to Austin from LA and, what you why you came here and how you started with the coffee shop and then got into HELM. I mean, let's get back to where you started.
For sure. Good question. I'm a Libra. No, I'm just kidding.
Me too, bro.
You are?
Yeah, October 16th.
No, that's my birthday.
Shut the front door.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, October 16th.
Holy shit. When were you born?
October 16th, 1983,
Dude,
at like 10:10 in the morning.
I'm 79.
Spooky.
I never know.
Okay,
That's
shut
awesome.
it down.
All right, so back to how you got to Austin, brother.
Yeah, I was actually born and raised in Oklahoma. Moved out to LA in high school. Towards the end of high school, actually got a record deal. Did a couple albums in LA.
Yeah.
My brother, crazy idea, was like, hey, we collected sneakers and you have a lot of boots.
Me too.
You did? Oh no. You caught me now?
I got you. You're good.
Let's open a shoe store in San Francisco. That's what he said.
Dude.
And took over an old space in the Mission District. Long story short, started that store, franchised it. It blew up. He bought me out because we were about to kill each other. And I moved to Austin. It was just kind of like, we've heard a lot about this city. My wife and I were newly married, and let's go check Austin out. And we more or less stayed. We came and visited, and it was far from what it is now. That was 02, 03.
That's when I moved here, May 23rd of 2002.
This is crazy. Have you been in insane asylums too? No, I'm sorry. Have you been in psychiatric hospitals?
I have questions going back to what you just said.
Okay.
I mean, you just blew through all of this. I'm like, we started this or this.
Yeah.
You record deal? So you musician?
Yeah, I was 17. I started a band when I was 16. It was a heavier rock band. And then after we toured and got some label recognition, I ended up going solo. We were all too young to try to...
What was the band called?
That doesn't matter. It was a heavier rock band. Let's keep that off.
Okay, fine.
I don't love the way all that ended.
All right, word. Old chapter.
But then you went there. So what I'm hearing is you're following your passion from when you were like 7, 15?
Nonstop, man. Yeah. Sometimes it was beneficial, but a lot of the time it was exhausting. Like some people are like, follow your heart. And then from the outside, they're like, what are you doing?
When did your heart lead you to shoes and boots? Where was that?
I had always liked boots. When I started touring, I always wore like older hiking boots and work boots and stuff before it was cool. I mean, we're talking about mid and late 90s. So a lot of people kind of mocked me, but I'd found some old hunting boots of my dad's in the garage, some old Irish setters, and I just started rocking that stuff. And
the red leather lace up with the metal brock. Yeah, the old
literally.
green suede or the gray suede.
Yeah, and I had
Vibram soles.
I had some gray suedes with some blue laces, the Vask ones. And so I started getting into that and buying those. And my brother and I are both a little bit obsessive. We say we get it from our mother. She's kind of Imelda Marcos syndrome and has always bought us shoes, kind of her love language. So yeah, my brother kept sneakers and kept them and then went little deep into Adidas and Pumas and Ace Onitsukas, and he kept going. I had some Nikes and I started buying Jordans and flights and stuff. And so yeah, he's semi as crazy as I am. He's very well educated, but was like, hey man, I found a cool space in San Francisco. He was visiting there. Mm-hmm. There's an old photo studio in the Mission.
Dude.
But the Mission was the barrio then. It was 20th and Valencia. It's still there, our first store.
Wow.
The brand the stores that bought it still have their store there. It's one of their most top-end stores because the mission, I mean, it's not unlike the East Side where it just blew up pretty quick. So
this following your passion was from music and let's do this and it's like everything. So why that's intriguing
You've always
to me?
loved shoes.
yeah, change path quick.
Why it's intriguing me is because for most people, it's like starting one business or it's kind of intimidating. Did you have any fears along the way about any of this? Or was it just kind of like, I'm just going to go and do it?
I think it started, I don't think of this often, but it started because I have to just keep going. I think it started in high school where I realized, hey, I want to play music. I want to be in a band. I don't want to be in school. And I did good in school, but I started doing correspondence classes and tested out. And I realized like, hey, I can kind of make my own way. Mm-hmm. So with business, when my brother rang me up about that, I'd been in LA. I had been doing what I was doing. I'd kind of accomplished what I'd accomplished there, but I quickly realized I didn't want to be on the road or in the studio every day. So
It was your passion, not your business.
right. Yeah. When it started becoming like that, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do it this way.
Right.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Was there any fear at all? It's just like you went from one thing to another, and it's like, was there like any hesitation? It sounds like you figured it out young and said, I can do this and move forward.
Yeah, there was anxiety, but I don't think I ever felt like I think I was going fast enough, or I didn't give myself time to have fear about it. I just kind of saw, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's what I did.
So, all right. So your second business was the shoe game, and let's get back to the shoe game
Yeah,
because,
shoe
like with
game.
my kids, you know, my son's got 100 pairs. He's 3. I've collected Match Jordans, all that jazz. I'm sure you did the same with your girls. My girls got the same.
Trouble.
Was that always your childhood passion, like your 5-year-old mind? Did you always love shoes? Because what I'm seeing is you went music, shoes, coffee, shoes.
Yeah.
And now your shoes are just, I mean, effing killing it
Oh, sure.
all over the world. You know what I mean?
Incredible.
And so, like, people are knocking off your shoes. I'm not saying knocking off, but
yeah,
trying
no,
to
I
play in
see
the
it.
same game as you.
That's where it goes,
and you're the
yeah.
forefront of, I mean, come on, 10 years ago, who was going to rock, you
Yeah,
know, a 12-inch...
Yeah, people
Trunk.
saw us wacky with that leather and that that toe.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, was it the shoe game that you always, like, was that what kind of always kept you kind of going through these hard times? Like, what was how did you get here?
When I was younger and even up in through LA and San Francisco, what's always kind of been with me is literature and reading. And I went back to school in Santa Monica. And then even when I got back here, I kept trying to have a normal
I tried to
rendition
go back
of
to
school.
college
Yeah,
so many times.
Doesn't work.
Nope.
I would always come back to kind of an obsessive behavior of how much can I consume reading wise. And I realized that happened with music. And then I realized that happened with footwear and then with coffee. And then while I was doing the coffee, the shoe bug just bit me again. And instead of opening another store here, which I almost did multiple times, I thought, why don't I design my own line? Because I'd thought about doing that in San Francisco and could just never even come up for air. So, but I think more to answer your question, I have to have something to fill this void of creativity, but also of labor, like of work. I have a satisfaction or a sense of accomplishment by working till I can't function. And if I don't do that, then I get in trouble, like booze or drugs or what have you.
I feel you. My wife hates it that I work 20 hours a day, and I'm like,
doesn't
sorry, I can only sleep for 3 hours.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't help.
Yeah.
A marriage.
The design process, did you naturally evolve into designing? I mean, you didn't take any classes, or you might have. So you just figured it out, put it on a piece of paper and said, I'm going to make this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to always have somebody that can literally draw doesn't hurt. But what I'll do is bring 6 styles, and I've now accomplished a process of doing it. But I'll say, okay, I want this toe with this heel cap. I want to add some height here. What if we laid denim in this shaft? And then, man, what if I put like a big lug sole on this? Or what if I put a leather dress sole instead of a sneaker sole? And it just kind of evolves into, hey, let's release that. So I think it's just having been around footwear as long as I have, but also wanting to do something that hasn't been done without it being obnoxious.
That's what I want to get back to. In each career path, I'll call it, business that you started, you learned something. And it's this path has brought you here.
Yeah.
So when owning the shoe store teach you about this now?
Oh, man. It taught me, first of all, I didn't know shit about business. Because I had been, like I'd said, I mean, poetry and fiction writing and literature, and then music.
Right.
And music had a business sense to it where I was like, oh, wait, legality stuff and contracts and per diems and wait, they pay me to do this now? Like that kind of stuff was, or I have to do this to get paid, to make a living. Wait, I'm going to work at a coffee shop at the same time when I'm not on the road. Like this mentality of like, I have to make a living, which I know sounds crazy, but when you are entrepreneurial, usually your passions or the work comes first. And then you're like, oh, there's got to be a dollar that comes with it. But yeah, I think that the process of the creativity, even just with footwear, came naturally. I even like with music or with art or things, it's just like it's part of me. Right. It's inside of me. But business wise, man, at the shoe store, I mean, there's hilarious memories that we have once I finally had a bookkeeper, but I was spreading out craft paper on the wall and drawing grids for inventory and for sales in a notepad. We had a cash register. Yeah. I mean, this was they had just come out with Retail Pro. Everything was DOS on the computers for retail systems. Yeah. So, and I was just learning that, but finally hired a bookkeeper, got into QuickBooks, and I mean, literally it was jumping the deep end.
What I love about this story is that, and the audience that's listening, it's okay. You just got to go. You're not going to have all the answers up front. And you just said it was hilarious what I was doing. It was all wrong.
Looking back,
but I figured it out along the way.
You have no answers.
Zero. You figure them out as you go. Because that's why now, even since I've grown a business or two and like brought on funding and things like that, that I've learned all just one day at a time, one step at a time. I mean, it's literally been, people ask me that, where's your MBA from? And how'd you put this deck together and stuff? It's like, I went to Book People and bought a book that literally said how to write a business plan. Yeah. Like literally, I don't have any tricks up my sleeve, because then I meet with these guys who are MBA from Harvard and MBA from Princeton and stuff. And it's like, cool, right on. My hat's off to you guys. But they're not usually the guys that go put butcher paper up on the wall and draw grids and sell shoes for that matter. Right. So, but I love people and I love the community aspect of it, like we were talking about earlier. So that always drives me, where the people are at the core of it. And my businesses are kind of just conduits to hanging out.
The second thing that comes to mind as you're telling your story is you're jumping from industry to industry and I mean, having to relearn the process. For example, Ryan and I were just talking about this yesterday, is for me, CPG, like making, I'm always like, how many laws do you have to get products in the store? Right. And for you, it's like, okay, I know what I want in a shoe, but I still got to contract manufacturers. I got to figure out how this whole process works. Totally. And there's a lot of work, research. So how'd you jump into that? Did you have partners that came in, or were you like, I'm just going to figure this out myself?
Everything I've done that I've started, I figure out by myself, just straight cold off the bat. And then the biggest part of it is the balance between acting like you know what you're doing. People are like, fake it till you make it. I don't agree with that as much as you could call it humility, but I have to play reality, where it's like I need to find people that know what they're doing or have done this before, and ask them ask them questions till they tell me to leave me alone. Right. They'll be like, hey, man, this kid, no, I'm not going to fax you. This is when fax machines were around. I'm not going to fax you my P&Ls. And I'm like, okay, I went too far.
Okay,
but no,
there's the line.
Yeah, literally, that's the aspect of learning in each field, and even with Helm. Like, I have an aunt in Istanbul who's been there for 17 years, and I'd visited her before, but this one time when I visited her, I was like, you know anybody that does leather? Because she does textile distribution. Found a guy that owns a shoe factory, went to dinner with his family. It's very kind of godfathery there. Not that it's not here, but just started a relationship and then said, hey, I have some drawings of some shoes. I mean, it's literally that.
Step by step.
Yeah. And then just eating crow until you figure out enough to be like, okay, I can do this.
But the process, and I definitely want to capture this, is you just ask. And the people that you ask the attitude's willing to help.
Oh, sure. That's what's rad. If people, and I've become that person where I think people actually call it consulting, and I usually laugh at that. You're going to pay me to tell you where I screwed up? But that ends up being invaluable. I'm like, dude, if I could have had somebody tell me, don't do these 10 things, I might have still needed to do some of them for the process. Like I'm kind of
humility learning.
Yeah, I run into a wall till my head is not just bleeding, it's like cracked open, you know, and put a helmet on and then keep running into it. I would have had, if somebody could have told me what some of the pains were going to be or some of the pitfalls and speed bumps, I think that would have been super helpful, because most of the time when somebody asks me stuff, I can talk them out of it for the sake of their sanity, finances, family, relationships. And if somebody could have, I don't think anybody could have talked me out of it, but they could have told me where they failed, and that would have helped me. But I was so headstrong on, what do I do to get here? I'm going to get here. And that endurance is the only thing that I realize isn't common. Inspiration.
First one.
Uh-oh.
The one that's...
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do it. Yeah, so the coffee thing was what it was. The cafe was successful. Started coffee roaster, still own that. But about 4 or 5 years into the cafe, I was, like I said, in Istanbul, and I'd had a brother-in-law at the time who was a really good artist, and I had done the thing with him, hey, let's put these drawings together and everything. I'm going to go visit my aunt. If I end up running into somebody and she finds somebody, I'm going to pitch them these pencil drawings. So this first one, I'd been in Israel, 97. This is where it started, because I'd had those work boots, and my brother and I ended up selling a lot of work boots at our store in San Francisco ahead of the curve.
But that's just...
Yeah, people would rock it like that, or
dude, all day.
tuck their denim
Trust
in it.
me, I remember watching them.
So in Israel, I saw all these beautiful people, girls and guys, younger, or my age at the time, and they would wear these combat boots, these military boots. And at night, we'd be out having dinner, or I'd be at the hotel or whatever, and these kids would walk through rocking these big, tall military... I mean, some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, and I don't know, they're probably 18, and they're carrying automatic weapons and wearing these with their street clothes, because it was part of their process of being in that country and their education, towards the end of their education. So I was watching all these people, and I remember being like, man, those boots are rad. And I always loved military influence, but I was like, how can I take a boot like that and kind of make it meet a dress shoe and have a touch of a sneaker in it? So that was 97. And everything that happened from there, I just started learning footwear with our store. But with this and with the other first 6 styles I did there, they were all kind of amalgams of a whole bunch of different styles. And a lot of people were like, are you kidding me? A lot of people being the 10 people that I cared about their opinion. But then once we brought them back and had this big party at our roaster, and they were selling, and Stag picked them up, and we started a website, it was all kind of snowball with, again, some really big mistakes. But this style, that's just what it was. I found this canvas, wanted to run it up the shaft, found this old they had a kind of a French dress shoe. Mm-hmm. This sheen on this leather, before I even knew what these things were. It's like, hey, we have this from Holland. We have this sole from Italy, a leather dress sole. The white midsole thing was kind of my nod to a sneaker that happened when we were trying to glue certain things together. So, I mean, it all kind of fell in place.
What year was this again?
That was 2005. What is this? 2017? That was 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of this drawings and sketches.
Yeah.
I was alluding to no computers. It would like put this together. It's just like, I'm just going to
I've rarely ever used computers. Still to this day, I use paper and tracing paper and colored pencils. We can look at my design wall. Yeah. You'll laugh. Yeah. It'll be like, are you sure one of your kids didn't do that?
It's funny you say that. Well, we don't have to go back to birthdays and all that kind of crazy shit. But there's a lot of things that you've been saying, that a lot of things that I do in my business too. And it's funny you talked about how you can't draw you might be able to draw now over 10 years of looking at a boot like me. Yeah. I can draw a croquis now and put a suit on a mannequin and draw a flat pattern. But I can't illustrate.
Yeah.
But I can give you 10 different fabrics and paint you a picture.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I do.
So, going, like you said, going and seeing your family and having these, let's call them backdoor dinner meetings. You know, there's no social media, there's no recording of conversations. It's handshakes and yes, I'm a man of my word. I'll help you out kind of deal. You know, I deal with 86-year-old men in New York who have been in the business for like 4 or 5 generations too. It's kind of the same world. And let's be honest, your boots aren't cheap. They're expensive.
Yeah, totally.
So average price of your boots are
$400.
And when this boot came out, what were you selling it off?
How much was I selling it for? $639.
Cool. So let's just say $700 out the door, roughly, in a coffee shop, okay, at a party, hanging out with a WTF moment and selling them out the door like crazy.
Yeah, and that just sounds silly.
So do you think that price actually, and you were in Austin, Texas, when Austin, Texas in 2005 was nothing.
No way.
That was just when the skyline started to change.
Totally.
That's just when, you know, Brad Zucker was able to get all those new zoning requirements and every building started going up. And so do you think that, and this is a question because of my business and other elite businesses in this town that sell high-end luxury goods, do you think that the way you marketed this and sold your heart and told your story and educated consumers versus going after dollars? Because there was a $700 boot, right? $650 boot. It's not a $150 Wolverine shoe or $50 from Academy.
Right.
You had a story. How did that translate so successfully for you by doing it in a coffee roaster? How did you envision making your business off a $650 boot and a coffee roaster to what it is now?
Man.
See what I'm saying? Because in 2005, let's paint the picture for everybody who's just moved here in the past few years. Austin, Texas was nothing. Where we're at right now was like crack residences and rundown garages
gunshots.
Gunshots.
Literally, prostitution, needles. Like it was like that at where Progress is.
Right.
It was all fields around it. And now you can't even see any 4 directions.
Right. Yeah. $650 boot, 2005, coffee roaster. Right. Look at you now.
Where's your head at?
How did you?
It's crazy because you guys are asking me, I've done interviews and answered questions, but you're asking me like some bigger ones from the beginning. I remember being at my aunt's house and having like a little, again, we didn't have phones that you could do anything on back then. Right. It's changed significantly. I remember building spreadsheets and saying, okay, if I pay this much for it, if I want to be able to sell it wholesale, then I need to charge this much for it. Just stuff I'd learned at the shoe store or in the restaurant business, what the markup needs to be and the ratio to make whatever it's going to be. I think a large part, to answer your question, not unlike other things I've done, was relationships, because I invited my 50 friends that I knew get it, like Bobby Johns and Liz Lambert and her girlfriend at the time that I was real close with, Amy. And there was a whole bunch of people there that now are still successful in Austin that back then got it. Right. Because they were from the coasts, or if they weren't, they were building something here that was more like a metropolis, or more oriented towards something that was more European, bringing something to Austin that wasn't here yet. And not in terms of like, let's San Francisco, let's invade Austin, or New York, It was more like, hey, let's bring something here that we think people that already live here will understand, or people that are coming here will understand. So, I love thinking back on that party where I picture Joel Mazurski, and there's just so many people that Don Moody, and there's just so many people. We have all the photos from that original party, and it's so fun to look at that and think, man, these people are still who make Austin. Yeah. And we were just bros then.
So you think it was the community then that just kind of helped launch everything, or was it the actual story? Or
I think both. The story was really big because I knew most, if not all, those people through the coffee shop. Okay. Progress. And then we had all kind of spawned different things, but that was kind of a melting pot for creativity and let's talk about what we're gonna do. Or let's talk about how to write a business plan. Yeah. Because we were all creatives who had come here primarily from other cities.
It was kind of the Justines of coffee shops.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really was.
At the time. Yeah. No
one's over here going to your shop. But no one would come across 35 to go to a coffee shop. People who got this side.
The wall. Yeah. I'm doing quotes in the air. People told me that. Yeah. It was the wall. Don't go east of I-35. So that's where I went.
And back then, what did you do to? So I have two questions. When did it catch fire? And on top of that, how do you think that happened? And what I mean by that, what was marketing like when you were out of a coffee shop? I mean, what?
Crazy. $650 boots out of a coffee shop.
I know,
for
and I want to know.
Shoes
Insane.
for the boots. Man, God, it's so crazy to think back on it. First, it was a roller coaster understatement of this is selling, this isn't. I got to go back to Istanbul again and again and again. What about these patterns? I mean, there was so much happening at once outside of the coffee shop that I was running and the roaster that had started. There was just so many attributes that I think having Moody, even at the time, and other guys who were like, hey, let's put a website together for you. He had just started a company with Kevin Whitley named Gorilla Suit. And they were like, we were all starting to do this at the same time. And Elaine Garza, who had started Giant Noise.
Yeah.
It was all kind of this
You're talking about power players of Austin that really helped you get moving.
Then we were like, hey, call my Nextel flip phone and let's go meet at this place I'm going to open called the Mohawk that's kind of in shambles right now. But let's go have a Jameson and hang out there and throw darts while Jack Sanders builds out the place with stuff from Home Depot. I mean, like, that's where we were at. And I don't look back on the, we're so old school and everything, but it's like, that's what we were doing.
That's old
who
school.
we were. Yeah.
That's great.
And I mean, I vividly, we have some photos of those kind of things where Moody would bring in High Life, like those big
40s.
Yeah. And we'd all just sit there and drink till and what are you going to do with this place?
Right.
So
Dream and talk.
And we were like,
intention.
a lot of us were like, honestly, this could be a shit show or it could catch. And a majority of what all of us did has caught.
So you think what I'm hearing, and I think we can come to a conclusion, maybe I'm wrong, but that your network, by helping each other and growing as a community together, whatever the asset was, a bar, a restaurant, a coffee shop, a boot company, a real estate company, hotel business, talking about all the people I heard you talk about. Right. Everybody in that community was helping each other succeed, whether it was a $650 boot or a multi-million-dollar bar that was being built by $4 2x4s from Home Depot while y'all are sipping Jameson. Yeah. It was literally, it didn't matter what facet of industry you all were in, you all wanted to help each other grow.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that it didn't, so like the reason this was so successful is your whole community that you've already helped was like, yeah, dude, I'm going to get my boys there that understand this stuff. And we're going to come and help you blow this business out of the water.
Yeah. And I'll trade you boots because I don't have a buck.
Right.
And people still, the crazy thing is people in this community, I mean, I almost get emotional thinking about you telling that story. I'm like, I got beard chills because it's like people are still willing to do that.
You just did it. Yeah. I mean, you just plugged all those people right now. And it's still a community, and that's a good thing.
And there's another 10 people. Like, it does seem sometimes bureaucratic or political, but it's really not, because I can text or call or email anybody for anything and get it in the same day. And they know that from me.
Right.
It's a relationship and community.
And that's crazy to think about that. Because, I mean, everybody that's helped me with all of this didn't have to do any of that. Why did everybody come to my coffee roaster and have, aside the fact that Aaron Franklin used the parking lot for his...
Right.
There you go.
Right.
That's where he started with his trailer, was up my parking lot. Because he finished out our building for us and his band practiced in the space. He's a drummer. So anyway, how and why did everybody come to that and support it? And it was right when Home Slice was starting, and Joseph and Terry, all those people still to this day. What can we help each other? How can I help you help me help you financially, city code wise, relationship wise? Who do you need to know that you might not, that I might? I mean, God, it's crazy to think about it. It's still like that, because San Francisco, LA, New York, you can be doing crazy shit every day that people are like, you're doing what? You're starting what? And you know people and you find people. This town is surprisingly still small. Right. And there's these forerunners, and I don't know how I became one. I just moved here from San Francisco and I was like, I'm going to start a coffee shop in this old dilapidated warehouse. And I mean, it grew from that, because there were people doing that here with their businesses. I mean, Liz buying that old ghetto hotel. And, dude. I mean, there's so much stuff like that where we all, Moody with that bar. There's so many there's so many other stores. Aaron opening that that's an old gas station that we still own. And him, hey, I have this, it was my grandparents' something where it's like, can I just park this here? And then weeks later, there's a line into the neighborhood. And I'm like, bro. But I mean, he served his barbecue at our opening for the Helm thing because we were all just there.
Helping each other out.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
awesome.
fun to look those pictures up again because they're all on like Flickr or whatever was cool then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was
MySpace.
ever cool. Yeah, right. If I can remember, I couldn't remember my login if you put a gun to my head.
Does it even exist? It's probably bought out by Facebook
I
or
don't
something.
know. Yeah.
And how has it changed now? 2018.
Helm or
Yeah.
the city? Or
Oh, your
Both.
business.
Your
This-
business,
yeah.
and how a lot of social media and the way websites work now. I mean, it's changed completely from selling out of a coffee shop. Right? I mean,
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
it's
out of
changed.
a trailer. Yeah,
or out of a
van.
trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got a nice van out there that moves your stuff. You got product all over the world.
Schlep
I mean,
it. Yeah.
everything's run here, right?
such a
And you're
huge
still
question.
servicing old school. When people want to send in their boots, you repair them,
Oh
correct?
yeah, we repair, we resole. I literally interact with Mallory and Brock and some other management with. I touch everything. I talk about everything. I process everything. That's a huge question though that you asked about how have things changed. I brought everything to the U.S. 4.5, almost 5 years ago. And there's custom stuff and language barriers and port fees and things were changing politically that were changing things financially with importing and exporting. I found out there were a few remaining shoe factories in the U.S. and it was the same thing I know you've experienced where I literally called, knocked on doors, went to these factories until somebody let me in, long story short. And we've been with them now for years and doing all our sourcing and producing in the U.S. And we've now stepped into another factory, no pun intended, and we're growing into these factories. And I don't know if outgrowing is the right word, but I don't have anything with offshore production, anything against any of that. And as climates are changing, I'm looking at other factories again, because as our brand grows, sadly, it can't be all U.S. based. We're not Red Wing. We don't own the factories.
Right. And it'd be smart for you to have a factory over in like Spain or Europe that you can produce and service
Or
your
Brazil.
Spain. Yeah, or Brazil. South American clients,
Totally.
European clients.
Totally.
Just to save on your shipping and your fees.
Well, and the capabilities they have design wise, my huge goal has been to bring some of that original influence and design to the US, because all these factories they've made a lot of the same things for generations,
Right.
literally multiple generations on these factories, and the sun's going to take over it. So being able to make our own lasts and do some things where they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Or what are you doing? Or you want what on it? Or how are we going to do that? And going there and spending enough time that they're like, okay, he's really going to buy enough of these for us to excuse using our line for however long to make what we think looks a little crazy. And here we are.
Awesome.
Very nice. Well, that's a wrap, I think. You have any other things you want to add before we wrap this up?
I mean, it's all you guys. I feel like I'm
I do
caffeinated.
want to ask
Yeah,
you
thank-
to plug the audience with wherever they can go see what you're doing, your website, all your social media, whatever you want to say. So
Cool. Okay. Well, it's HELM Boots, HELM Boots. We know how to spell that, right? HELMBoots.com is the website. Our handle everywhere else across the board is HELM Boots. And like you guys were saying, we're in a lot of wholesale accounts, but really we are focusing now on the website and our flagship store here in Austin on East 11th. It's a little small space, but I will always work to keep it that kind of warm. We're not here to be like, we're blah, 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 and we're going to take over the shoe market. It's always going to be like, we might have a few of those. We might do some pop-ups, but our goal is not to grow real hard and real big and real fast. Our goal is to become a brand that is familial in terms of like, I don't want this to be a flash in the pan, which a lot of brands are these days. It's like, let's make this stick around. How the hell have we made it a decade? Let's make it last 2, 3, 4, 5 more decades and see where it's at.
Love it.
Word.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Joshua.
everybody.
Thank you guys. Yeah, for sure.
hey, for everybody listening, go knock on doors, make those phone calls. Somebody's going to answer. You can do anything you want. We always hear it. So have a good day, guys.